Afternoon. Welcome. Welcome.
Bring your
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon and welcome. It is 1:30 and welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, and it is now 1:30, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Goldberg. Present. Commissioner Peters is absent. Commissioner David.
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern.
Present.
Mayor Moore.
Present.
Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
And Town Attorney Rubin.
Present.
Thank you.
We could all rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could have the invocation, please. Oh, yes, invocation. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Firstly, on behalf of the St. Lucie community, I'd like to wish the Jewish community a very happy Rosh Hashanah tomorrow evening and a very happy New Year. And I'd like to share a prayer with you, which is a blessing for peace for Rosh Hashanah. Grant us peace, your most merciful gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and an advocate of peace amongst all nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship amongst the inhabitants of all lands, and may a yearning for your promise of peace inspire every home and every heart. Teach us to labor for righteousness and inscribe us always in the book of life, for blessing and for peace. For you are the source of all peace. Amen.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get started, today marks the 6-year anniversary of Marshall Labadie. So we wanted to wish you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for completing 6 years and hopefully 60 more years.
We're older than 25 more.
So congratulations and thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any modifications to the agenda? No. If not,
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second that?
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. So we have our first presentation, which is the State of Education Report by School Board Member Ms. Whitfield, District 4, School District of Palm Beach County. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. I try my very best to come and visit all of my communities every year, really to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions that you have. So I'll just share some information with you. And then if you have any questions at all now or at any time, I'm always happy to share. Again, I'm Erica Whitfield. I've actually been on your school board now for 10 years, believe it or not. And I've really enjoyed this position. I feel like there's so much that needs to be done within our schools, and I just love the opportunity to support. I want you all to be proud of your school district and the work that we've been doing. We recently got back up to an A status in the state of Florida. Florida has recently, they changed their grading scale. They also changed the tests that we were tested on. So last year we had a little bit of a hiccup, went down to a B. It was very tragic for all of us and very much, we were all very worried about it. But within a year, we were able to get back up to that A status. So the test actually got harder. The scale that we were on got harder, but we were able to reach to that. So we were very, very proud of that. I know many of you don't have schools in your area. So Highland Beach is not one that has a public school within it, but you do have schools around it. And I wanted you to know how well some of them are doing. We've had a couple of really big standouts in the area that I'm so very proud of. Clamosa, which is one of our art schools, it's gone and become a middle school as well. So it's a K-8 school, just a little bit to the east of you, was one of our highest achievers this past year. They went from a C grade to an A grade. So we were really very proud of them. That was an amazing addition, especially with the middle school being a part of that. This morning, I actually got to visit two of the schools in Delray Beach, and I was very proud of the work that they were doing as well. One of the ones many people always talk about is Carver and some of the issues we've had there in the past. And I have to let you know that Carver Middle School this morning was very calm, doing a really good job. They've been working very hard, and they were just a few points away from a B last year, and they are working very hard towards that. We have had a new principal this past year at Boynton Beach High School, which is the school just to your east or to your west as well. And as a high school, this new leader, he's very, very young, which I think just ages me more than anything else. He is just in his late 20s, I think right at 30. He brings in a lot of energy, and it's been so wonderful to see him growing into this position. He came from John I. Leonard, and so having new leadership there has been really exciting. We've actually had quite a few people changing over. The principalships have, they're more competitive than ever. And so we have these incredible people that are taking over some of these positions. We recently also got a new principal at Congress Middle School who is just an unbelievable light in her community. I can already tell you that the school is feeling happier and calmer than it's ever been in the past. So that's been really nice to see. So just seeing all of the schools in the area. Congress is one of our schools that has been struggling. Last year they got a D, which is unusual and, you know, something that we never like to see. We can kind of understand C's, but never D's. So she's working very hard. She's brand new this year, and she has brought in so much support for the students that we really think it's going to do a lot better there. So I'm very proud of what the schools have been doing in the area. And I definitely want to share with you, especially because of how much money you guys spend on your tax dollars here in Highland Beach. And so I do really appreciate that. And I want to let you know that it is going to the best places possible. And the work that we're doing is really going well. So the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was attendance. That's something that, you know, when you look at our scores post-COVID, that was a real issue. So we had to close the schools. We closed them for quite a long time. Many students were doing their work virtually. Virtual education is not the same, especially depending on the student. Some students excel, but it's rare that you excel just being on a computer all day. And you all know this from sitting on computers constantly. The interaction's not quite the same, especially when you're trying to learn something like a language or trying to learn how to read and math. Having that interaction can be really good. So we know that most students do better that way. And during COVID, though we were able to do a great job about keeping schools going, and we were very proud of that schools did keep going. It was just better than what the rest of the country was able to do, just completely shutting down. But the impact was very real. And so you will see our grades throughout the community really kind of took a dive during that time. And then we've been working our way back up from there. Well, I'm happy to say, I think we finally overcome COVID and we have finally gotten back to the place where our scores are where they really should be and then are excelling. And as I mentioned, we're an A district now. We're actually one of only 2 A districts in the state of Florida. It's us and Miami-Dade that are considered urban districts. We don't compare ourselves as much with the rural communities because we have a different set of challenges. But as far as urban districts, we're one of the best that are doing as far as scores. And I think the education that you see that the children have the opportunity to receive is really excellent. One program I want to highlight on that is at Boynton Beach High School. We have the BASA program, which is an aeronautics program, and it is really top notch. It's amazing what these kids are doing. Our valedictorian at Boynton last year graduated from that program, and he also graduated with his pilot's license and went off to Embry-Riddle. So we're very proud of that. I think that's a really amazing program that many people don't know exists there, but I want to make sure people have the opportunity to understand it because we put all this money. It's actually one of the most expensive programs we have in the district. We put all this money into it using grant dollars from different organizations. And those programs really do give such different opportunities to our children that I think are really wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about attendance. So back when we were talking about COVID, one of the problems is that people started believing that they didn't have to show up to school. And because we told them they didn't have to, so that's kind of on us. So but they, many of our students and our families started believing that they didn't need to come. And one of the stories I like to share is literally a couple weeks ago, my 4-year-old came up to me and she said, "Mom, I don't think I want to go to school today." And I was like, "Are you sick?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, we go to school. That's what we do. That's what we do in this house." And because, you know, obviously I believe a lot in education. So the issue we have is there's a lot of families that don't really see that as the default now. They think, "Oh, you don't want to go, you don't have to." And I've seen it among my friends post-COVID. They go, "Well, you know, they can make it up or they can put the time in later." The problem with that is that we really have so much to teach and you have to cover all of these subject areas. And with the students not being there, it makes it more difficult. And now you're playing catch up and you have a lot to do. And when you have a student who's coming in to the school system potentially behind, any teacher that is trying to teach that year, the goal in a year is that you teach a year's worth of education. Seems very basic, right? But if you have a student who's 2 years behind, then that teacher now needs to teach 2 years of education in that 1 year, which is very, very difficult because they're also teaching all the other students. And so as a student gets further and further behind, being able to just be on pace with the rest of the class becomes more and more difficult. So one of the solutions that we have is you got to be there. Last year, one of the problems that we saw was 39% of our students in Palm Beach County missed 11 days or more of the school year, which is kind of one of the big cutoffs for chronic absenteeism. And this is a problem that's happened throughout the country. So when I'm coming to you all, I'm mentioning that if in your communications with your community, we can start changing the conversation around education to talk about the importance of attending. So I know many of your students might go to private schools as well, but just changing that story among our community is really important because we need people to believe that the default is you go to school, whatever your school may be. In Rhode Island, the governor actually made a really big push for this and was able to bring his attendance rates down by 10%, absentee rates down by 10% in a year. He put a lot of transparency around the numbers of people who were going to school and really pushed it to be an important thing that we needed to see happening at all times within our schools and among our students. So I encourage you as a potential action step from today is really just continue to tell your communities how important education is and that they need to get out to schools every single day. If you're sick, make a plan with your teacher. If you're not sick, we want to see you in that seat, and tired doesn't count as sick. So the last thing I really want to talk to you about before I take any questions is the handouts I just passed out. I have enough actually that we could probably pass some to the community members. Y'all may have seen your ballots recently. I just came to answer any questions about that. About 9 years ago, as a school board, we asked the community for more funding to pay for renovating our buildings. And our buildings were about $2 billion behind in repairs. We had stopped repairing them after the 2008 recession completely. We transferred all that money into operating because we were struggling so much with our funds. The state of Florida actually reduced the amount of money that we received to do capital improvements and has never gone back from that. So as a community, we have asked help from everyone that lives here to help with our buildings. So we came and asked you all for additional funds. Last time we did it with the cities and with the county. So half of it went to us, half of it went to the city and the counties combined. This time, for those people who may not know, the city and the county, cities and counties have decided not to go after that sales tax again. So right now, as a community, we are at 7% for our sales tax. After this end of the calendar year, we will drop down to at least 6.5%. And if you approve this tax, if you don't approve the tax, it would go down to 6%, just so everybody understands where we kind of stand. The reason the school board has decided to continue going forward for this tax is because we really still need quite a bit of money. In the last referendum, we asked for the 0.5-cent sales tax. It got us just a little bit, right around $1 billion. And that $1 billion has gone to building new schools, fixing HVAC systems, floors, roofs. I was actually, one of my schools I was at today, the roof is leaking. And a lot of these projects now, it's like, well, let's see if we can get that referendum dollars before we decide if we're going to fix it. There has been a ton of need. And with the safety and security issues that we're facing, I mean, if you think about 10 years ago, we weren't thinking safety and security the way we do now. Back then, we probably had gates randomly left open around campuses. That never happens anymore. They are all fixed. They're all checked every day. We have police officers on campuses. We have single point entry so that everybody has to come to the same entrance. We have put in camera systems. We have put in that Centric system that was touted so much in Georgia and their shooting recently. We actually had that 3 years ago. We have been working really hard to create an infrastructure that protects our children. And this is a big part of that. How do we make sure that we firm up that school so that it is the safest place we possibly can put our children every day? I would trust our schools over any other place in the community. It's really very well protected. And the reason we're able to do that is through this. Also, when COVID hit, which was also unprecedented, we had this funding set aside for technology, and we had never thought that that was what we needed. We had this dream of giving every person a computer in our school system, but when we had to go virtual, we kind of pushed it really fast using this funding for that. So we were able to spend $80 million pretty quickly to buy a lot of computers. Everyone in the system got it. We're now at about coming up on 5 years from buying that computer. So in the spring, it'll be 5 years. Many of those computers are coming to their life's end. We are being able to replenish that through our technology dollars that we have. So you can see the scope of what this referendum means to the school district is quite large. And so it's something that we're asking the community to consider. If you have any questions about how we've spent it, I'm here to answer any of those. Also, we have an independent review oversight committee with one of your neighbors on it, Mr. Elmore, who lives down the street. He's sat on that for the whole time, and they oversee how we spend the funding, and they have approved many, many times. And it's a monthly meeting to see how the spending is going, and they approve how we've been spending it. So we make sure to spend the money exactly how we said we would. And I think that's been going pretty well. So I will stop there, and I'll take absolutely questions on anything that you have at all.
Well, since I have several kids who have gone through the public system, and I currently have 2 at Boca High, and I am thrilled with Boca High and the roster of classes that are offered. And I have one that recently graduated, and I feel like Boca High definitely prepared her well for college. So thank you for all that you do, and I really do appreciate it. Just a couple comments on the half penny. I think that's critically important, especially the security for the schools. And I know Boca High just got the metal detectors, and definitely, I definitely feel the additional security that has been implemented in the schools. So that's really great, and I think this is a very worthy thing I think we all should vote in favor of this. That's my own personal opinion. I do have a couple questions though. Absenteeism. So my kids actually took the bus, and do you think any of the absenteeism has anything to do with the transportation? And what is and I guess I'm a little confused about the bus transportation system and like the school. Like, do you even oversee the buses, or is that a completely different
We do.
thing?
Yeah.
I guess,
So-
could you comment on like
Yeah.
the bus situation and how consistent it is, and if that could potentially be an issue for absenteeism?
So things have gotten better this year. I think in the beginning of the year, we always struggle. And as we get going, the complaints are down a lot, which is huge. We've definitely had some moments in the past where everything was thrown off. A few years ago, probably like 6. I was on the board then, but it's been a while. We tried to change systems, and that went very, very badly. I think it kind of got us a black eye when it comes to transportation. Our current transportation managers are doing a great job. They're working very, very hard. That being said, we are always down bus drivers. It is really hard to find them. So I think right now we're down about 70 bus drivers, which means that all of our maintenance workers drive every day. So instead of maintaining the buses, which we also want them to do, they have to take turns driving because we don't have enough drivers to be able to pull off a route all the time. So when that happens, what you're seeing is a bus may have to go pick up kids, fill up, come back, pick up more kids, and then go back again, which then throws off the rest of the routes. So they do their very best to work around that, but it is a challenge. Also, we do a lot of choice driving. So when a student and my daughter was one of them as well, goes to a school that's not in their home school, you get a bus. And so we are sending buses all over the community. This is why we have to shut down when the winds are over 35 miles an hour, by the way. So that's why we closed last Thursday. If the winds are that high, the buses could fall over, and we move so many children in buses every day. And we're moving them long distances, so we absolutely can't risk it. It's just too much. So that becomes a real issue when you have not enough drivers. Our buses are actually doing pretty good because they were included in the half penny last time too. So we got a bunch of new ones. So the quality of the buses is actually, it's kind of come up quite a bit, and that's been good. We do drive them until they absolutely fall apart, and then we sell them for almost nothing. So if you're ever looking for a bus, but if it's pretty funny actually to see. But so the quality of the buses is good, but we need more people to drive. We have given raises, which really help. We're over $20 an hour now for our starting salary for our bus drivers. We're actually just doing a raise coming up here in a couple of days. So they're all going to get their next raise coming up. But to start is about $20 an hour. We try to stay competitive with everyone around us because otherwise we'll lose them. The hours are terrible. It's the other thing I always say. They have to be there at like 5 a.m. every day. And then they get this weird 3-hour break in the middle. And then they have to come back for the evening shift, and they're so afternoon, evening. And then we have some bus drivers who are driving, for sports and things like that. So I always say we need to love on the drivers that we have as much as possible, but we try our best to make it an appealing job for them. But I do think that, so when we had that problem years ago, you were seeing kids stuck at the bus stop for too long or stuck at school for too long waiting to go home. Most of that has been mitigated. There are definitely one-offs where they're late. The principals are supposed to excuse all those absences, but it's just not good to have missing time. So some of the principals I've talked to have gone to rotating schedules. I'm not sure if they do that at Boca, but what they do is your first period is your first period on the first day, but on the second day, it's the second period is the first period that you have of the day, and then the third and the fourth. So you don't miss the same class every single day if your bus is late, or if anything is happening, if you just happen to be a late person. And so that does help kind of spread out the problems with attendance, but obviously it could be better. I think I kind of just outlined all of the issues. We're always trying to work through it. If we if you know anybody who wants to be a bus driver, please tell us. It would be amazing. We do have really good benefits. So there's that.
Yeah, I think that'd be important to address that issue, because I think that would really help. And then I know they implemented like the vouchers, right? You can, if you want to go to a private school, you can take a voucher and apply. How has that impacted enrollment? Has there?
So far, we're doing very well.
Yes,
So
okay.
knock on wood. We are a really, really good school system, honestly. It is something that I think is what makes us so competitive. When you see Broward County, they're actually a pretty good school system too, but when you see in Broward, they're going to have to start closing schools. And the reason for that is because many students have left the system, and you can choose to go wherever you want. You can go to homeschool, you can go to private school, you can go to a charter school. And that all of those things can impact closing schools. In Palm Beach County, last year we were up 1,000 kids. So we actually gained 1,000 kids over the year before. This year, we are right at finding out the complete numbers, and they think we're about the same as last year. So either another 1,000 kids gained or within that area. That's right where we think we are, which is very good. It's very, very good to have your projections match where you're going to be and even exceed is wonderful. I have some schools that are just busting at the seams. I think Boca might be busting at the seams as well. Some of my schools are, some are a little low. And so when that happens, we work really hard to try to create a school that can draw people in. We have 335 choice programs. And so that is, like I was talking about the BASA program at Boynton, those kids are, they're getting something extra, something special when they go to that school. And so those things can draw children in from other schools. And hopefully, as we're competing with private schools and what they're offering, this gives another option for them. So I would say not every school is drawing from the privates, but we're trying to make sure that they feel that they have an opportunity. And I always encourage people when they are interested in public school system, like, don't give up on us, give us a chance. And usually we can find you a school that fits. We don't always give transportation to every school if you didn't get in through a choice program, but we have lots of different opportunities. We do choice, which is in, you apply in December or January, depending on the program you're going into, if there's an audition process or not. And then you'll find out by April. But after April, we also have the opportunity for controlled open enrollment. So if there's space at another school anywhere in the district, you could choose to go there and we can get you in. So we have a lot of things we do to work with families to make sure you're happy with your school, because I want everyone to be happy. I want you to like go to your school every day and think, wow, I'm so happy to be here, and not feel like, oh, I just didn't have a choice. So I think that's been a really good thing. So trying to work with our families to make sure that they want to be here. But the vouchers are real. You can take the money. It's about $8,000. So one of the other things, like it's over 8,000 now. I think actually we're at like 8,900 now. So you can get that money and put it towards your child's education, homeschool education, private school education. Most of our private schools are running much higher than that. So that additional funds, you're going to still have to pay as a parent. So that's something for everyone to keep in mind.
Well, I think that's compliments to you, right? That there wasn't some mass exodus,
Try not.
that's a really positive sign for the work that you've done. So I think that's excellent. Another thing that's come out is we're providing our opinions on new start times.
Oh my.
So
Such a good
I
thing
guess
to bring
how is that going? I mean, I think Boca High is kind of lucky in that the administration there had already recognized the
Very.
importance of making the start time later. We start an hour later than most other high schools. And I can tell you that has been excellent for my family because no one likes to get up that early. Where do you see that going? How
First
is
of all,
all
I'm
that?
super jealous. I also have a 17-year-old and she leaves the house at 6:30 in the morning to get to school at 7:15-ish. Starts at 7:25. And so like a half-hour drive for us for her to get to her school. So it is a hike
Brutal.
and she drives herself,
Mhm.
which I hate.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you as a parent, watching my kid get up so early every day and not getting the sleep. So I understand the health concerns. And I have a degree in public health. This is my thing. I really have always been concerned about why we can't have the kids sleep in longer. However, go back to the buses. It's all about the buses. It always comes back to the buses. We have a hard enough time getting our buses on the roads right now and getting them running. And we're a very successful school district. We're currently one of the best in the state. And so we are asking the legislature, using our high achieving status, and we actually do have a status for that, that we should be allowed to decide our own times on when schools start. Mostly because our community is 50 miles by 50 miles. We're busing kids from Belle Glade to Riviera Beach, from Boca up to Jupiter. I mean, we're moving some children every day. And so to be able to pull that off with the limited resources that we do have, we're asking that they not force us to readjust
Huh?
our times. And we do believe that there may be some possibility in the legislature for that to happen this year. So as you know, that'll be in the spring. We'll find out for real. So next year would be the year we would have to implement, but we are going through a full process of asking the community what they want. There's a survey that has been put out. Also, there've been community meetings. There was one last night at Atlantic High School. They are finding out what the community would be okay with if it happened, different time slots. By and large, the early results are that everybody doesn't want the times to change. And like 75%
Wow.
is asking for no change at all. Even as a mom who wants her kid to sleep in longer, I am worried about the ideas of shifting elementary students to be outside in the dark. Though it might help my older daughter, it's not great for every other baby in the community that has to wait for a
Right.
bus in the dark.
Right.
And then when we have some of our middle schools potentially starting as late as 10:30, you're talking about childcare, and we don't know what's going to happen in that time. So I think we're going to end up having to provide before care if that happens. And then we may end up having, I think, sports teams practicing before school
Right.
because there's no lights on any elementary or middle school
Right.
fields. We have high school fields covered except for one. But that was because somebody stole the wiring, but all the rest of them are good. The things we deal with. But so with the middle schoolers, you're going to see they can't stay that late because there's no way to light up the fields. And with this referendum, we may be able to provide some more middle school lighting. So that is a possibility in the event that this does go that direction. But my goal right now is to go to the legislature and ask for flexibility here so that we can adjust it as possible, but not as a requirement. and it's looking fairly decent. But we will know more obviously in the spring. If you have an opportunity to speak to any of your legislators, please feel free to plead the case on behalf of Palm Beach County. Some school districts have already shifted their times, but they're much smaller than we are. And it's really our size that is the problem. If we were just a community of 5 schools, this wouldn't be an issue, but we have 100 and almost 83 now.
Wow.
So we're talking a lot of kids, a lot of buses. And so back to the buses, my dream was, hey, why don't we just have everybody start at 8:30 and we'll just get, 3 times as many bus drivers. And
Right.
it's, it's a good dream. But we have like 600 drivers right now, maybe a little bit more than that. And so I would need to find 1,200 more to be able to cover all the routes. And I can't find 70. So that's where we're at.
Oh.
Big issues.
Yeah, significant issues for sure. I guess one question, like how many of the high schools have the ACE program?
So only 2 are really I'm going to change the way you asked your question so I can go at it the different direction. Only 2 are really implementing the IB program with real solid fidelity, some with medium fidelity. So the 2 best IB programs are Suncoast and Dwyer. Forest Hill, Pahokee, Atlantic, they have IB programs as well. But within the entire district, most high school programs are leaning towards ACE. So when you go to Boynton High School, for instance, they only have an ACE program. They don't have an IB program. Even at Atlantic, you're starting to see the IB program is kind of getting smaller and ACE is getting bigger. So for everybody in the audience, just so you know the difference between the programs, the ACE program it's called the Cambridge program. So it's from Cambridge, England. And that program is a higher education way of teaching classes. So if you think of like an AP class, they also create ACE curriculum classes, which is, it's also, you're going to get that higher points for it. It's more challenging and you can get college credit. But the college credit is only really recognized in the state of Florida. So when you are an IB student, you're also getting that high level class. It's a separate class, an international baccalaureate class, and it's recognized internationally, part of the international baccalaureate part of it. So within those classes, you can get the college credit. And if you go to an out of state school, your credits will transfer. With the ACE, you're really gearing it to students who are going to stay in the state of Florida. So if you as a student in 9th grade know exactly which one you're thinking of, are you going to a Florida school or an out of state school, you can choose the program that best fits you. So and ACE is like a smidge easier. It's a little bit easier to get the credits. The students tend to succeed at a higher rate and they get the ACE diploma at a higher rate. So with the IB, it's much more difficult. And so you're not seeing that as much. The other thing we have an opportunity for, if you are at a school with either of them, you can also do dual enrollment classes. So that's going to Palm Beach State or even UF has some classes, different programs have classes. So you can get those credits and those will transfer even more easily because they're really a dual enrollment. You're already getting college credit for it. And then AP through the College Board, you're actually that's recognized nationally, internationally as well. So those credits can transfer. So we have those at all the different schools. But as far as the full diploma program, ACE is at most of our high schools, and then only a few are really holding on to IB, which is Suncoast very successful, Dwyer very successful. And then the other ones, it's like small little cohorts within each school. That makes sense?
I think ACE is just so great. I mean, so great.
Not to mention you get to go to school for free with it too.
I know. I mean, I
That's fun.
can't say enough about ACE.
Good.
If you want to stay in the state of Florida for your undergrad, I mean, I just can't say enough about, and I feel like Palm Beach County, we are in such a great position because it seems like we have more ACE programs than some of the other
We do.
counties.
They're all over. We
Um,
are, because we really, I mean, we are pushing these opportunities because Bright Futures, as many of you all know, you get an opportunity for a Bright Future scholarship, which is getting your schooling paid for. And we have some of the best schools in the country in Florida. So you're not even having to go to a subpar education. You're going to an excellent education system and it's paid for. If you get an ACE diploma, you get full ride. If you get an IB diploma, you get a full ride. And so those are really enticing for our families because the students are going to come out and be able to go to a college for free. And if they happen to have gotten the credits through us, we have students constantly graduate, like a ton of them graduating with 30, 40, 50, 60 credit hours. And so a family doesn't have to pay anything.
That's right.
And so as a student gets out, they're coming in with 2 years of college credits. They show up to college with 4 years paid for. They can get a master's
That's
before they
right.
leave.
That's
Pretty awesome.
awesome. It's
I know.
awesome.
It's really an
So
incredible
please
system.
be in favor of that. There, I mean, I hope this impressed everyone. I'm very impressed. And yeah, I really appreciate it, what you do for families. It makes, college,
Awesome.
possible for a lot of people. So I think it's fabulous. So
Thank you. And I
thank
have
you
to
very
take
much.
my
Polly.
kid on college tours now, so I'm really appreciating it.
Yes,
I'm like, oh,
yes.
man,
Yeah,
these
you
are
don't
really
realize.
Expensive numbers.
That's right. Until you get there, you really don't realize. So it's excellent. So thank you very much. Sorry to hog up I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but
Well,
hopefully you guys are impressed.
Yeah, I just want to applaud you for, on behalf of the department, of the whole education department, just fabulous. And I loved hearing about this. I was unaware of all these programs. So it's just great. I was curious, if you had handy, do you know what our ranking is, our educational ranking throughout the US?
As a school district? No, I'm not sure. I mean, we are really high up there because we are one of the only 2A districts. If there's a ranking as a.
No,
city,
I
I'm
meant
not sure.
the educational,
Oh,
how
you
we
mean
are
how
throughout
we are
the-
comparing to the rest of the country?
Yes, yes.
No, I'm not really sure what that is. I know how much money we make compared to the rest of the country, unfortunately. We're very low when it comes to that. Actually, just to say it, as far as the funding, we have 2 referendums. So one is the capital one, which is what you're looking at now.
Mhm.
That one, we also get a referendum from the community that's on the other 2 years. It's on a 4-year rotation. And in that one, you all are paying to give us additional funds for mental health, school security, safety, police officers, and teacher pay. And thank God you do, because without it, we would be so low. So we're like 47th in the country as much money as we get per child. But with that, we get an additional funding to be able to keep our teachers sticking around, which is very difficult to do because it's not a high paid position. And after a while, they start to catch on. They could make more money other places. So we don't want them to leave. So that's been difficult. But as far as ranking, I'm not really sure where
Okay.
we are. I'm sorry. I should know that.
Well, I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing and everyone in the departments to make it happen. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel that education is critically important,
Yeah.
that's our future. And if we don't educate our children, there is no future. And I think it's wonderful. I also find it interesting that when my children, who are well out of school, when they had, instead of an ACE program, they had honors classes.
We still have those.
So, and they had magnet schools so that there was no forced busing up north. You had programs in the less desirable area schools where people from the more desirable areas and they would cross.
We still have those. We call them choice now. So there's just a change of the name.
Well,
Same
that's it.
thing.
It's a lot of the programs are the same.
Mhm.
They just have new names
Exactly. It's true.
and they worked.
Mhm.
So you don't mess with something that works.
Yeah.
But thank you for your time. This is a full-time job for you,
Thank
I
you.
am sure.
It is. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. And again, if anybody has any questions, concerns, issues, I am always available. I'm erica.whitfield@palmbeachschools.org. Thank you
Thank
all so
you.
much. I appreciate you having me here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item is the Domestic Violence Month proclamation. I'm going to read the proclamation and then I'll ask Ms. O'Brien to come up. The Town of Highland Beach proclamation. Whereas the Town of Highland Beach recognizes the vital importance of reducing domestic violence through prevention and education. And whereas the Aid to Victims of Domestic Abuse Incorporated, AVDA, facilitates prevention programming in line with the CDC's recommendations to prevent domestic violence. And whereas the Palm Beach County Coordinated Community Response Team builds key partnerships among justice agencies, health providers, allied professionals, domestic violence centers, and victim services to assist victims and their families to hold offenders accountable. And whereas in supporting victims of domestic violence, the town of Highland Beach joins local programs, state coalitions, and national organizations committed to sending a clear message that domestic violence will not be tolerated. Now, therefore, I, Natasha Moore, and also my fellow commissioners of the town of Highland Beach, on behalf, we do proclaim the month of October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we have the CEO of AVDA here today with us. So please come to the podium, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Mayor Moore and Commissioners, for making this proclamation to recognize Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Excuse me. Sadly, it's way too much of a problem affecting many people. And before I give a little comment about AVDA, I do want to also thank one of our board members, Chief Hartman. It's very helpful having law enforcement represented on our board, especially since there is such a connection. We work closely with law enforcement entities. We also have Tammy Bobby, one of our board members, in fact, our board secretary here. And I'm also joined by outgoing, our Chief Program Officer, Jennifer Ray. Many of you know her. And then our incoming new Chief Program Officer, Lammy Askar, who is 2 weeks on the job. So, if you look at the Center for Disease Control Statistics, which lists intimate partner violence as a community health problem, you will see their statistics that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 8 men in the United States report that they have been affected by intimate partner violence. And those are the reported numbers, which are huge. To put it in perspective, the CDC also gives the statistics for women affected by breast cancer, and this being also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. My own little sister is a survivor, but those numbers are 1 in 8. We all know someone who's affected by breast cancer, so just double that number. So this is a huge issue, which is why we exist, to provide life-saving services, but also work toward creating social changes to end domestic violence and dating violence. So in addition to providing wonderful residential programs that keep people safe 24/7 every day of the year, we also offer a robust prevention program. And in fact, we have a strong presence in the school where we have violence prevention educators working in accord with the contract with Palm Beach County Schools to go out and teach healthy relationships. So we are big nonprofit. Our corporate office is headquartered in Delray Beach. Our shelter is in an undisclosed location by state law. And we have about 47 employees, hundreds of volunteers, and we've been around 38 years. On your, somewhere in front of you, there should be a little piece of paper that talks about some of the events we have going on, especially during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we're hoping you can pay attention to the opportunities to support AVDA and raise awareness. Our website is avdaonline.org. And our social media handle, so to speak, is AVDA Commits. AVDA Commits. So I wanted to be brief, but also if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I don't have any specific questions. I just wanted to comment, I've, as a practicing attorney in family law for over 35 years up north, I've seen a lot of this in the divorce realm and just the restraining orders that come by through court. So it is really devastating to families, to children particularly. And if there's anything further that can be done, if these events do highlight it, is so very important. I think so much more should be done through, not only, it's wonderful that you're saying about the school programs. I'm not aware of them. All I know is where the adults get sent to for the programs. To keep them from criminal prosecution, but so much more has to be done on the ground, speaking to women and men of all ages, through the churches, through the physicians, through the pediatricians, through the gynecologists. So it's an ongoing problem, and I'm very happy that you're here today to highlight it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we do all of that. We do provide legal advocacy, and we partner with legal aid to provide attorneys to help the people we're assisting. And Jennifer over here and her team, well, they train all the doctors and reach out to many healthcare professionals throughout really the state to raise awareness and help identify early warning signs and how to ask for help. And we encourage you, if you ever know someone that may need some help, to be open-minded, non-judgmental. Let them know in a nice, kind way that help is available and you're there to be with them through the process. It'll mean a lot.
And it's very important, as you pointed out, the housing that you give. And how is the word spread? How do you get it to the population where they can obtain help?
Many ways, mentioning schools earlier, because we do have a presence in the schools to work on prevention. We are connected to a lot of teachers. A lot of times children might raise an issue through social services. There might be a referral that way. Law enforcement is another one, and we do spend a lot of time. Jennifer and her team do that as well, training law enforcement officers on how to approach domestic violence victims and how to be sensitive to what they're going through, and also culturally sensitive, and working with them to help them get some services. And again, you mentioned also the doctors. A lot of times hospitals are there that somebody might recognize that this might be a domestic violence situation, and they can make the referral. We also, of course, are very involved with state and national entities that have hotline numbers and books in terms of resource manuals. And of course, a lot of people find us through the website. We are the only domestic violence center in South Florida, really, that can reach our hotline by text. We started that during COVID for everyone's safety because people were stuck at home with violent partners. And so we added the texting component, which is safe and secure, and it's helped a lot.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not a question, just thank you. That I know this affects all areas of society across every kind of lines you can think of. And it's a very important service that you provide. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And I participate personally. You have programs for men, Band of Brothers, right? You can participate in, and then Sassy Sisters, which is what I do. And there's some really great events. Your race is coming up, and being fast is not important. Just walking it and, with a group of friends or whatever is, and a very enjoyable thing, and to show support. I actually saw Rich there last year. A lot of you, it's very well attended, and I would recommend anyone else to also participate, and also participate in the Sassy Sisters program and Band of Brothers program. And it's just a really very worthy organization that has so much impact in our community. So thank you very much.
Mayor.
Yes.
We
Definitely
appreciate you.
support. And here's the proclamation for you. So thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have anyone here? Yes. State your name and where your address.
Afternoon, my name's Howard Stoll. I live at Casuarina, 3450 South Ocean Boulevard, apartment PH5. I was here at the last meeting, questioning about our mechanical rooms that the Fire Marshal Matt has determined need to be emptied out of all storage. He's showing a law that speaks of a electrical room with certain electrical equipment in it. Our mechanical rooms have nothing that is stated in that law. When I was here last, I was told that I didn't hear from Marshall or from the fire chief or from Matthew as to a discussion about this, if anything's going to be done about it. I have not heard from anybody, so I came and I was wondering if you guys discussed it, if there's anything that's being done about it. Because clearly the law that Matthew is talking about does not speak about anything that we have in our mechanical rooms. So I was wondering if we're still in a situation where we're being asked to clean up our mechanical rooms for no reason. And being inconvenienced with that. I mean, we use it for storage for water bottles, for metal tools. There's an air conditioning system in there. There's a hot water system in there. There's nothing flammable in there. The law does state certain things, none of which are in these mechanical rooms. So I was wondering where we are on that.
Marshall, I don't know if you can comment or if Chief wants to
Sure, I
comment.
spoke
I
with
mean,
Matt about it. I had Chief come today so he could step out and talk to you in more detail about it. My knowledge as fire marshal is quite limited,
Yeah,
so
me
I will
too.
defer to the fire department. I
me
just
too.
can't speak to that with any.
Okay, so who do I
expertise.
speak to?
And safety is of
Okay.
the most, is the highest
Okay.
priority.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same.
And I'd like, if I could add something, Chief, I'd like to maybe the next meeting hear a little bit more about it in general, because I've heard a number of people are experiencing the same situation as you were talking.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Timothy Rotolo. I used to live in Highland Beach, now from Boca Raton. And I wish that the ADVA ladies had stuck around because I wanted to comment on the domestic violence. We've all been part of domestic situations, I think, since our births, or maybe most of us anyway. And I think there's a lot of room for manipulation in the domestic violence space. Maybe Ms. Goldberg has some experience with that of just I think behind the scenes, a lot of times the people who know more about the law, especially family law, they may try to manipulate a domestic situation in search of advantages in a parenting time or something. I wanted to throw it out there. I think there's a lot of manipulation that goes on in the domestic
Well, I don't
violence
know that
space.
that's relevant for this meeting, right?
It's just,
Yeah,
it's
okay,
just a comment.
okay, thank you.
You all have a letter from Barbara Nessel in your agenda packet under public comments, but she sent an email this morning saying that she would not be able to make the meeting. So,
Okay, so it's in the agendas. And,
yes, it's in a packet.
okay, thank you. Any other public comments? No, okay. Ordinances, there are none. Consent agenda. We have some reappointments for several different boards. Any discussion or anything like that? Ready to?
These were all reappointments, is that correct? And obviously, we haven't heard from any of the chairmen of these committees and negatively.
You don't have to because you all had in a previous meeting.
No,
before.
I'm thinking right now, because having worked with somebody on a board, they would know if they would want them reappointed. And since no one has said no, then I'm assuming everybody is fine with this.
Yes.
Then, yeah.
Well, if we're all in agreement, we can go ahead and do a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to unfinished business, Florida Department of Transportation, R project update.
So they're picking back up with the drainage work. They probably lost, I think the last report said 10 to 12 days on contract time because of some of the weather, the heavy rains in the afternoon. Appears they have now picked up pace again and are moving forward. And again, that's generally around a June 1st project completion. So time is closing in on them. So we'll see some paving probably in a month and a half. We'll probably get to that point, but I think they're still doing all the drainage work and all that, which could be the slowest part, but they're proceeding. They're not too far off. They haven't received a ton of complaints. The ones they have received, they've been responding to for irrigation or other types of impacts. So
Since I made my request for more information, they put a porta potty on my property.
well,
Well, we'll have to get out and do it.
if it becomes a problem, let us know.
Well, they're really digging up today. Very busy up there.
Sanitary sewer lining rehabilitation project.
So Sergio gave me an update. They're that contractor we're working on to do a piggyback contract has found some pricing that could be acceptable. They should have a proposal to us by the end of the week to see if we can execute a phased program based on someone else's contract. If it isn't, I will probably, if this doesn't work this week by our next meeting, I would then have the alternate of, SRF, do the whole enchilada, go out to bid and make it happen. And we'll start that process rather than waiting for starts and stops if anyone will extend their contract to us. So, so if we don't get more solid information or something we can work from at the end of this week, then I will develop the process by which we would start moving forward with the state revolving loan program, do an RFP, Skender will get that going, and then we'll do the whole project and just bid the whole thing start to finish and let the vendor come in and then start that right behind the FDOT project. So
How long do you foresee that process?
when it's a federal loan program, could be probably a year.
Okay.
So I mean, we just
So that's why
keep
it's important
going.
you
The
get
good thing
started
is
now.
we have it designed. We know how much it costs. We have all the authorizations. We probably have to pass a bond resolution. We don't have to go to the voters because they already gave us every means to which execute the project. So you figure there's at least 6 to 9 months of just programmatic steps that federal program requires. It's available to us. Again, it's so you get the low interest loans, 1.5%, 2% loans. Can't do any better in the marketplace. So you want to proceed with that because I don't know, unless you tell me something otherwise, right? No, we don't want to, take $3 million cash and pull it right out and allot it when we're trying to strengthen ourselves over that long term. But David's working on the 5-year and we'll start tying those pieces together, what that looks like. And so, we'll probably start the project right after FDOT at some point in time.
So you do know how much the project's going to cost? I know we asked
We
for
don't.
3.5, but
We bid it out 3 years ago and was around 2.3 million. So I'm guessing inflationary periods, there's no new vendors. Plastic markets has gotten a little bit better as petroleum costs have come down. So I'm guessing probably a $3 million project is probably with contingencies and yada, yada, yada is probably where we're at. That's my best guess. I'm not the civil on the project or seeing the bid markets, but trying to get somebody to extend their prices from another town has been quite difficult. So I'm guessing we have a limited number of vendors to come in here. So the prices are probably going to be pushing up.
it's always more than you think, right? It sounds like it is likely we'll need a loan, but if we could have the different options,
Sure.
just because like the sewer fund does have some cash in there. Seems like some excess cash in there.
We do.
So-
We have some of the ARPA dollars that we did remain to be allocated to the project. The SRF program, having started my career in it, does allow for prepayments. So it's very flexible, municipal friendly. So take the loan and then pay it off earlier, do incremental pay downs, and then they recalculate your amortization schedule and you just keep on moving. So it's gonna be better than a bank. I just don't know. And we'll look at it, what it would mean if we dropped all of the cash at once, what kind of hit that would be. Anticipating we'll have these conversations, some other capital projects coming up could put us in a pinch. So, and again, I don't know, we might be able to do partial, like a down
Yeah,
payment, if you will, and then just loan or borrow a certain period amount. So Yeah.
I mean, with these long life infrastructure projects, right? It's not a bad idea to take out a low interest loan
Mhm.
because the reason why is because we're earning better rates of interest, right? And use that cash for more emergencies, lift stations, pumps, meter replacements, right? You know what I mean? Because those meters, they only last 5 or so years. And so, focus on that, but we'll look at all the alternatives.
I mean, the water fund, I agree, is kind of skinny and we need to definitely build that up, but the sewer fund
Yep.
has,
Yeah.
and where does the money have to come from, right? The sewer fund, extra dollars in there
Yep.
can only be put towards certain things, right? Because you have rules, you can't take money from one fund to, whatever. So, yeah, I guess that's a thought I have is since you can only use the sewer fund dollars for certain things, and I think we have a lot, we have more than we need in there.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
over 300, almost 400 days or something like that. And we probably only need 150 days or something, but,
Yeah, we'll look at all that again.
Okay.
We're talking about a long-term,
right.
long-lived asset.
Yep.
Right? And so if I
Yep.
can borrow money from a state revolving fund at 2%,
Mhm.
and meanwhile, my funds are growing at 5%, in the bank,
Mhm.
so we'll look at it long-term. And we'll look at what that does with rates, right? Because that's the thing, right? Because we have to make sure that rates are sufficient enough, not only to operate, but also for repair, maintenance and capital, right? And so we'll plan all that out. So we'll look at all that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Moving on to new business, resolution number 2024-030. Resolution of the Town Commission of Town of Highland Beach correcting a Scrivener's error, and resolution number 2024-026.
Yeah, so basically I went back through the fee schedule. I didn't catch it, but basically underneath water system connection charges and sewer connection charges, in parentheses, for some reason, there's impact fees. It's a connection charge. It can't be both. So it's to strike the impact fee. It's a connection charge, just clarifying it. And I noticed we didn't have anything for an irrigation meter. So if a resident or a condo wants an irrigation meter, you got to buy the meter and we'll install it. And so we just wanted to make sure it's not considered an impact fee because it has other statutory implications. And it's not really an impact fee to connect. It's if we were to build new system components, then we would look at an impact fee, but we're kind of built out. So we really don't have impact fees for the most part. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's a connection charge, not an impact.
Any discussion on that? We're good?
No, that's good.
We're good on the motion?
I move that we approve resolution number 2024-030.
They're gonna,
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
yes,
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to consideration of the Town of Highland Beach Fire Rescue Department personnel rules and regulations.
Yes, so thank you. In our personnel manual, we do not have any provisions that would apply to the nature of work that the fire rescue department does. When you're on a 24 on, 72 off shift work environment, things accrue slightly different. How you take time off is different. Injury is a little bit different. How you earn time, you work holidays, how all that is in there. We didn't have it in our personnel rules. So we wanted to add this as an addendum. As we imagine, eventually they will collectively bargain. So eventually they'll form a union to basically pay somebody else to do what we're doing. But we will, basically, this is kind of the roadmap. This is built off best practices we see in surrounding agencies. We ran it by our labor attorney. They're comfortable with it. Everything's good. Ran it through administration over fire, and this is common practices. And it kind of just addresses that unique nature of their work. Just like police is a little bit different on their 12-hour shifts versus 24-hour shift, line of duty type work stuff. So this just makes it clear, so there's no confusion. Deidre's excited so she can calculate all the payroll and figure out how they accrue all this stuff. So this just adds some clarity and lays out expectations and consistency for application across that department. But when you get eventually their collective bargaining agreement before you, it's going to look just like this. Right. So,
I have a question, just
sure.
a point of interest, because I don't know, what's a 42-hour employee?
So basically, because they do 24 on, 72 off, if you look over a 2-week period, some weeks it's 48, some weeks it's slightly less. Or, I mean, so you take it over that, it could be 96 hours over 2 weeks, and sometimes it goes down to 84 hours over. So basically an average is it's a 42-hour shift per week instead of a 40-hour. Police's 42, I believe, as well, maybe a little bit different. Maybe they're a little bit different, but that's just basically on averages. And then you'll notice in their overtime calculates at 96, not the 84. So basically we take that number to make sure overtime is calculated appropriately. But yeah.
Yeah, I just had never seen the term before.
Yes. I mean, and then some are 48s are a harder number if they're 2 on, 1 on, 2 off, but then they have these whole provisions with Kelly days, which we avoided. So this is a little bit cleaner. So you'll notice a lot of it throughout, it says 42-hour shift.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I guess normally you would say 40-hour work weekend.
Right,
This is
40,
Full-time,
full-time.
full-time, basically.
It's how they
Yeah.
calculate
Mhm.
full-time, so we take it
Full-time.
on an average
Right.
basis across the whole year.
No, I don't have any further comment. I think this is very comprehensive, all inclusive.
So do you need a motion to?
Yes, please to, approve.
Okay.
I move that we approve, okay, what are we calling this?
Fire Rescue Department
Oh.
personnel rules.
Rules and regs.
Okay, I move that we approve the fire rescue personnel rules and regulations into our town personnel files.
I'll second that.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern, excuse me, Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
And Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries.
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on to town commission comments, Commissioner Goldberg, do you have anything?
Well, I wanted to send our prayers to the families affected and for their speedy recovery due to the hurricane Helene, which has devastated and brought so much suffering and tragedies. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, their town managers and municipalities that they can regroup and be there to enable a quick rehabilitation of the area. That's all I have today.
Oh, I second that. I don't think anyone could have foreseen what's happening in the Asheville, North Carolina area. They're nowhere near a major body of water. They're up high. Who would have thought that that kind of devastation would come through? It's not like you have deserts that will see flash floods sometimes. This is not that situation either. I can't imagine. They had no opportunity to prepare because they had no experience. No one had any experience with this. And it's just heartbreaking, it really is.
I'd just like to reiterate, we talked a little bit in our report, my report, the last meeting about rules and regulations on batteries, on electric vehicles and bicycles. And based on the hurricane, what you've seen is some really horrific pictures of flooding, which caused fires on the electrical vehicle. And I just want to emphasize, we ought to look at it very carefully and what our rules and regulations are for the town relative to parking and where they can be parked and the safety issues, because if you looked at some of these videos, it's pretty scary.
Nothing from me, town attorney.
No, nothing to report. Just Happy New Year for those who'll be celebrating this week.
Thank you.
Yes, Shana Tova.
See?
Everybody have a,
I refrain from the Hebrew Mars, so starts me up.
so everybody have a great holiday. got some numbers. We'll have these conversations. I have meetings with each of you next week to talk on some of these capital projects. I got some numbers in for the old fire station. Nothing cheap on the island, it appears. So we'll have those conversations to see what your appetite is for a charter question for it, or if we don't think about rebuilding or rethinking the project a bit. I'll have photos and the schematics to walk you through, but the numbers a little bit shocking. So we may want to rethink that, because I don't know what your appetite is to ask everybody when you hear, assessments and recertification insurance, fire safety systems, if it's now is the time, or do we scale that back? So we'll have that conversation. I just want to put it out there. It was a lot more than we thought. And I got quotes. I got a written one from our friends over at Kaufman Lynn. I also talked with Golf Building. They kind of confirmed the same numbers. So I haven't authorized PGL to actually start doing hard design, just the preliminary design and schematics, so you guys can determine, thumbs up, thumbs down, let's take a time out. Especially when we're looking at sanitary sewer as our priority, what I've heard from you all. So that is still out the door, and we're going to do all those things. But I'll just bring that to you. Also, yes, thanks for the kind words. My folks just arrived about an hour and a half ago, so they were able to get out of the Carolinas. I don't know how. They'll have to tell me stories when they see them this evening. But from what they said it's pretty bad. Devastating is not an understatement from the level and scope of just damage, and just it's pretty scary. So hopefully, not hopefully, if I get some photos, I'll share you just so you can get some ideas, the scale outside of what you're seeing probably on the news. Other than that, on behalf of the 75th anniversary committee, we had a good working meeting this morning, kind of working through layouts. They made me very nervous, but I'm and comforted that it'll be a well-planned event. But getting all those vendors in, trying to come up with some unique engagement opportunities for the residents, with the commission, with employees, with condo boards. I think it's a good chance for everybody to engage. And we're still waiting on the plaque for Mr. Hillman, for Doug Hillman. Don't get anything built out of bronze. I guess it's like it's some kind of creative design process. I didn't know that would take so long. But we're working on that, and it's coming forward. And I think the chair of the 75th anniversary is giving me the eyes. You want to come? You got to come up to this. If you talk, you got to come up. So.
I don't get to touch him much. My only comment, years ago, Reverend Robert Schuler in California used to say there's acres of diamonds underneath your feet. And this morning at the meeting with Marshall and his team, Skender, Madison, I was really impressed. I'll tell you, the fire department and the police department coming together, as these people spoke, you have incredible experience. The new group of people that are coming on board, to be very frank with you, they could put on events for the next 20 years without any outside assistance. They are very, very impressive. Marshall, you had to be impressed this morning.
That's why I said I was nervous as well as, impressed. At first I was like, oh my gosh, this is growing into something kind of, I'm used to shooting from the hip. Our events have been smaller than last one was bigger. This one, boy, sure does have the potential to really be something special.
As I listened to the professionals speak from both the fire and police, I sat back and I said to my team that was there, and they've worked Las Vegas for years, I said, wow, you have some real great brain power down here for the future. And I went back and I said to my wife, in the next 20 years, I'd like to be around to enjoy it, because they were very impressive, Marshall. I think you're going to have some great years ahead.
I do have the best team. So, and you see 4 or 5 in the room. So that's great. So,
my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I definitely echo that. Team is outstanding, really outstanding.
That's it. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited about this 75th party. That sounds something really to look forward to. Can't wait. It's going to be excellent. Yeah. announcements, board vacancies, Board of Adjustment of Appeals. We have one, a Code Enforcement Board. We have two vacancies, two, three, I guess, four vacancies, a lot of vacancies on the Code Enforcement Board, but we have the magistrate. And I guess the magistrate is meeting, is it for the first time, October 8th or something like that? So.
Yes, that's correct.
So, and that will be the first meeting. So-
Yes, that is correct.
So pretty good. What we have implemented is getting started and is very good. Oh, here it is, under meetings and events, October 8th at 1 PM, special magistrate hearing. October 10th, 9:30 in the morning, planning board regular meeting. October 14th, the town hall is closed for Columbus Day. And then the next day, October 15th at 1:30, we have our next town commission meeting. And if we have nothing else, we can adjourn. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just to follow up on that text, we did have a chemical scoop bill in the plant. Pat and his team were able to clean it up. Fire helped. We had to evacuate some folks. We're up and running. So we're back to, we had to buy Boca water over the weekend while we waited for the parts and new chemicals to come in. Everything's clean bill of health. We're good to go. So just want to let everyone know.
Okay, with that, we adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
2:45.
Just, there's an